Good afternoon and good morning, wherever you happen to be. Welcome to vendor session number 2. The title of this session is Microsoft 365 and Azure, the hidden security and management challenge for MSPs. Today, we're very lucky to have Mark Winter, who is Vice President of Sales for Rapid Fire Tools. Mark has been in the IT industry for over 30 years, and he's been in sales and marketing with a channel focus for more than 15 of those years. Mark has been with Rapid Fire Tools since the inception of the company, and he is frequently asked to attend or speak at IT and MSP events worldwide. Mark.
Hi, this is Mark Winter with Rapid Fire Tools, and I'm thrilled to be here today to talk about Microsoft 365 and Azure, the hidden security challenge for MSPs. So for those of you who are not familiar with Rapid Fire Tools, we started off in business, quite a long time ago. Our founder, Michael Mattel, was a former MSP, and we built Rapid Fire Tools up from basically a software startup to an industry leader. We've got over 8,000 MSPs worldwide that count on our tools to help them run their business. You probably know that about a couple of years ago, we announced that we were acquired by Kaseya, and now we're part of the IT Complete family of companies. It includes other rockstar companies like IT Glue, ID Agent, Unitrends MSP, spanning cloud backup, and of course Kaseya itself. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the results of some research that we did leading up to the development and release of our Microsoft Cloud Assessment module. And I think that's going to demonstrate for you how unbelievably important it is for you to quickly add Microsoft Cloud assessments to your services, whether you use our tools or not. Doing so is going to afford you the same benefits that you get from doing on-prem IT assessments. So I'm going to talk about what they should look like and what you should look for when you're doing these. And of course, I'll finish it up, just talk a little bit about Network Detective so you have a sense of what our product does for you and how it can help you in this area. So it's no news that COVID-19 pandemic has moved millions of professionals to work remotely, and it's stimulated an explosion of video meetings and teleconferences like this one, right? And this unprecedented shift of resources to and through the cloud has been an eye-opener for a lot of businesses and organizations of all sizes. And people are really seeing the positive aspects of cloud computing. So a couple of fun facts about enterprise cloud. A little over 80% of enterprise workloads will be in the cloud by 2020. Almost 95% of enterprises already use a cloud service. 30% of the IT budgets today in enterprise are allocated to cloud computing. About 2/3 of enterprises already have a central cloud team or a cloud center of excellence. And according to Gartner, half of all enterprises spend over 1.2 million on cloud services annually. So the cloud is already a big deal, and it's only going to keep growing. So another fun fact. So today, 1 out of every 5 corporate employees uses an Office 365 cloud service. So 20% might actually sound low to you, but that's up from less than 7% just 9 months ago. So put another way, in the last 2 years, Office 365 has eclipsed all of the cloud providers to emerge as the most widely used enterprise cloud service. So it's great that big companies are making the move, right? And it could present some significant opportunities for, savvy MSPs that do co-managed IT services. But I know that most of your clients are probably small to mid-sized businesses, right? So guess what? Amazon and Google and Microsoft are spending collective fortunes moving SMBs and consumers too into the cloud. And that's going to have a profound impact on the future of managed services. And really that future is now. So you probably already know that IT will become more and more of a utility with fewer on-prem resources as we move on, right? There's just too many benefits to ignore when it comes to the cloud. So you've got reduced IT costs, improved scalability and business continuity, collaboration, right? With things like Teams and SharePoint. And at the end of the day, it allows you, the MSP, to set up what's essentially a virtual office for your customers, giving them the flexibility of connecting their employees to their business anywhere, anytime. And most MSPs I talk to have many, if not all of their clients already using the cloud in some form or fashion. So some facts about SMB cloud usage. 94% of SMBs, small to mid-sized businesses, right, our customers, appreciate or say they appreciate the upgraded security they get from adopting the cloud. A little over 40% of SMBs favor the public cloud over the private cloud, and that number is going up. And in the past 2 years, Azure's SMB market share grew from just over 30% to 41%. But when you combine that with the use of Office 365, it actually makes Microsoft the #1 shareholder in the market. So your clients are ready, willing, and able to make the move. If you don't take them there, someone else will. And again, the good news is that most MSPs have a great head start due to the extraordinary SMB adoption of Microsoft Office 365. So even if your clients aren't buying and installing software to the cloud behind your back, there's a real good chance that they're adding users, creating groups and teams, uploading God knows what kinds of files, right? And then sharing folders and files with people both inside and outside the organization. So a quote from McAfee, analyzing usage of over 20,000 cloud services, they found that almost 60% of sensitive data in the cloud is stored in Microsoft Office documents. And kind of paraphrasing another quote from that. So if you use sensitive information, things like business plans, financial forecasts, etc., as a proxy for business critical data, it's real clear that the dominant platform for working with this information remains Microsoft Office. And right, Microsoft continues to more tightly integrate Office apps with the cloud. So usage of the Microsoft cloud service is just going to continue to grow, right? So the cloud is becoming extremely important. And you probably already also know that even entry-level Office subscriptions get a terabyte of OneDrive storage for every user. So a lot of stuff is getting pushed up into the cloud. And as MSPs, how do we know what's up there? So the risk isn't Microsoft, of course. It's like everything, the users, right? So Microsoft takes security of the Office 365 platform very seriously. And they continue to make significant investments in service-level security. These investments protect the cloud-based apps from intrusions. Users, though, can still perform high-risk actions within the applications. And you know, whether those high-risk actions are accidental or malicious doesn't matter, right? So taken together, the average organization sees about 3 threats each month within Office 365. And these include compromised accounts, which is where, you know, a hacker gains access to a corporate Office 365 account using either stolen credentials from phishing or credentials bought on the dark web. Insider threats, right? So this is somebody taking data that's been published to, let's say, SharePoint, for instance, and taking it with them when they move to a competitor. Or privileged user threats. And this is where somebody's got access to data and functions at a higher level than their role should be, right? So they have access to things that they shouldn't have access to and could become a big risk to the company. So compliance applies to the cloud too, right? So in the cloud era, our challenge is not only protecting the sensitive information against internal and external threats, but retaining that same level of compliance policy enforcement that you would have for the on-prem applications and data associated with that. You know, like I mentioned before, with just a few clicks, an employee can share an entire folder containing sensitive data, and it can be shared with another user within the company or outside the company. And in most cases, that would be in clear violation of any compliance regulations. And again, under that shared responsibility model, Microsoft takes ownership of platform security, but it's up to the Office 365 customers themselves because they're responsible for the safe and compliant use of the application and the data. And as the MSP, that kind of puts you in the loop too, right? It makes you partly responsible. That's why it's so important to document and know what's up in the cloud, even for your smaller clients. And of course, if there's changes, being able to have an audit trail back to the source of the change can be very important when it comes to compliance. So let me spend a few minutes talking about what you should be looking for and documenting when you're performing an assessment of the Microsoft Cloud environment. You know, again, we do have a tool for this, but regardless of whether you use our tools, point tools, or whatever, let me give you a sense of what you should be looking for and why it's important. So in Azure AD, right, what are the authentication type, and is it admin managed or not? Is it synced to on-prem, right? So a lot of cloud environments are supposed to be syncing to on-prem. You got to check to see if the settings are correctly enabled, and of course, if that sync is actually happening. What are the custom apps, right? Is there sprawl or bloat going on? You really want the minimum number of apps as possible to improve that security posture. So you want to be able to document and know what the SKUs are that the organization is subscribed to, right? So are there maybe more licenses for the SKU that are enabled versus consumed? You can help your clients save money by having the licenses done properly. Document and review on a regular basis the groups. So, what are the mail distribution groups, the security groups, Microsoft Teams? Periodically review these to ensure that they're set up correctly. Are they supposed to be synced in? Is it current? Again, you want to really limit the number to reduce the security posture, so eliminate any of these that are unnecessary. Make sure you know what users are enabled, right? Typically, users are people, but they could be shared accounts, email accounts, or users required for application access. Make sure only the right people have admin access. That's critically important, right? Is multi-factor authentication enabled? Look for any terminated employees that still have access, or worse, vendors that your clients were doing with that no longer are. Make sure they don't have access. And of course, identify and list all the registered devices to validate correct ownership. So you really want to have a good understanding of the security of the environment, right? So the question is, how can I, as an MSP, improve the security of the environment for each of my customers reasonably for that customer? So you probably already know that Microsoft provides a secure score for the environment, along with information on the company's peers based on the company size and type, right? This is something that comes from Microsoft. So what is the secure score, and how does it compare with its peers? You really want to look at the trend of the secure score for that company and the trend of the peers, right? So a good measure of your management of the environment, something that you would share with your customers, is an increasing secure score, especially if it's increasing at a faster pace relative to that company's peers. Microsoft also assigns a control score based on the organization's progress in implementing various controls, right? You should document the individual control scores so you know what's going on. You should also review the ones that are not implemented and put a plan in place to implement the ones that make sense for that company. Ultimately, that's going to increase the overall secure score and make the environment more secure. And of course, you want to keep up with alerts, right? First, are alerts and auditing even enabled, right? They should be. And if there are any recent security events, you should determine the underlying causes or remediate those as appropriate. Also, looking at the trends, were there any spikes by date or type that really require deeper investigation? So as an MSP, it's really important for change management and compliance to have the documentation and know what changes occurred and when, right? You want to know that for the users, devices, configuration items. You want to know who made the change, right? What the new value is, what the old value was in case you need to roll any of that back. But again, for compliance, having regular documentation of the various settings and the changes really will help the organization. With SharePoint, so how many sites are there, total versus active? How much space is being used? If you're going to sell them backup, how much space do they need for backup? Or the number of sites going up while active sites are constant or decreasing? That can indicate bloat in the environment. And again, as an MSP, you want to keep things to a minimum to improve the security posture. And of course, SharePoint storage is expensive. OneDrive storage, not so expensive. Don't let SharePoint become an archive for your customers, because that'll cost them potentially a lot of money. Like I said with OneDrive, right? Very similar. What's the current usage in terms of files being used and active files? How much space is being used? Again, document the trends that can help you kind of scope and document backup solutions like our sister company Spanning. And also look for any abnormal file activity that could indicate breach or rogue behavior on the part of a user. And of course, you want to look into Outlook usage, right? So what is the mail activity and trends over time? Which users are sending the most to mail? Are there unusual spikes that could indicate a hijacked account or unauthorized or unapproved mail merge. Identify the users that aren't reading their mail, right? It's piling up. Why is that? Perhaps there are inactive user accounts that really need to be redirected or turned off. It's also very valuable to have documentation on the mailboxes. What are the settings? Having that information lets you identify and resolve any inconsistencies with configuration. Talk to your customers and review the distribution lists with them, or the correct people on each list. Have there been people who changed positions and need to be removed? Are there people who should be added? Again, keeping things tight. Are there any distribution lists that don't need to be there anymore? And also take a look at delegated access, make sure it's correct, right? We often see that someone gets delegated access to the CEO's mailbox when they're on vacation or away. And then they forget to turn it off later. And of course, now that person has access to that person's mail, right? Especially if it's CEO, you don't want that going on. And let's talk about teams. You can't manage what you don't know. There can be a lot of sensitive information transferred and residing in teams, right? Users are empowered to self-manage the environment. That's the attractiveness of it for your customers. They can add groups, add teams, share information without any real controls in place. So documentation of the environment is really important for you, right? Is everything archived? Who's the owner? Or are there a lot of new teams added, and by whom, right? Is there somebody perhaps that's a little out of control in the team's environment? What are the member and guest settings? Do guests have incorrect settings like being able to delete channels? And that could, of course, result in the loss of sensitive data. And again, Microsoft has backups and security, but they're not going to prevent against accidental deletions. Also, are there old unused teams that could be removed, right? There could be old but sensitive data that should no longer be stored in that common environment. So, like anything, without the right tools, this can be really hard work, right? So you've got to log into the Microsoft admin portal or have your technicians do that. They got to click around Azure, take screenshots, copy and paste information, and just gather a ton of information, right? Click into the users to gather information, click into the applications, and then good luck gathering and organizing information on SharePoints and Teams, right? Your technicians could be spending a ton of time with PowerShell scripts and, again, logging in and clicking around just to try and document what's going on. That's why we came out with the Microsoft Cloud Assessment module. What it does, taps into the Microsoft security scoring system and exposes for you the areas of highest risks and vulnerabilities. Again, this is going to help you improve the overall network security for every one of your customers. We include the comparative security benchmarks that I talked about to help you evaluate security posture. And again, the idea is that it is saving you a ton of time. I mean, countless hours by automatically gathering the information on Azure AD and the other services running in the Microsoft 365 environment, right? Teams, OneDrive, SharePoint, etc. We go beyond the Microsoft control and secure scores. So we're looking for risks based on IT best practices as well, right? So, and it includes a detailed change report, which I mentioned is so important to have. And I'm not going to read this slide, but it gathers a ton of stuff on Azure AD, SharePoint, OneDrive, and the rest of the cloud services. So there's reports for every one of those. It's extremely easy to set up and use. So basically, within the Network Detective application, you simply click to run the Cloud Data Collector. You'll provide the administrative credentials to be able to log into your customer's Microsoft Cloud tenant. And basically, it gathers the information, and then you're able to generate the reports. And it's a very comprehensive list of reports. I already mentioned, we've got the risk analysis, which is your executive summary, and then detailed reports on Azure and all the other services. Let me just show you what a couple of these look like so you get a good feel for it if you're not already a Network Detective user, right? So the risk analysis is the executive summary. It provides a risk score on the environment, and that's a combination of IT best practices as well as what we're learning from the secure and control scores from the Microsoft environment. We also provide a list of the issues. This is, by the way, provided to you in DocX, and this is written in a way that you can have a non-technical discussion with the owner of your customers, right? Or the CFO or whatever, and talk about the implications of the risks and why you might need to charge them to remediate them. Then there's other more detailed documents, probably more useful for your team than providing directly to the company, but there's the cloud security assessment. So this brings together the various security analysis regarding the environment. It includes secure score trending and baselining, like I previously mentioned. So we provide for you a nice graph of what the secure score is. More importantly, we graph this over time so that you can actually show your customers that you're improving their secure score compared to their peers. So in this particular case, in this instance, the blue bars there are your customers. The black line is that company's secure score for the peer group. And you can very easily show your customers that you're improving their security over time when you're seeing the secure score of that network going up relative to the peers. We also give you detailed information on control scores that are not implemented that you could implement to improve the overall security of the environment and, of course, that secure score. Also have alerts analysis as well. So the SharePoint. This documents SharePoint sites that are part of the Microsoft Cloud environment. And again, we're going to provide information on the total sites, active sites, but more importantly is providing you with trend information. So we're showing you the trends in usage and activity. And here we can see that in the case of this particular instance, the blue is the number of sites by day. And we also see in the black, that little graph, that's the active sites. So we've got sites being created while fewer and fewer sites are actually being used. And so there's bloat going on in this environment that probably needs somebody's attention. Of course, we also show and graph the usage of data here. OneDrive, similarly, the total files, active files, files by day, and other trend information to help you manage that environment. So let me kind of just quickly recap. Our cloud module lets you see inside the key components of the cloud infrastructure. It's going to help you sell faster. You'll show prospects why they need your services. You can target specific Microsoft 365 services that need cleanup, potentially, and better controls. Identify the specific risks in the environment and vulnerabilities that need to be addressed. At the end of the day, right, it's going to save your company, your technicians, a ton of time. Time is money, right? This will help you have the information you need to better manage and control every customer's Azure AD and Microsoft 365 environment. You can create new cloud security offerings and really differentiate yourself from the competition. So let me kind of talk about how you can make money. Of course, we already know saving time, time is money, right? So when we announced our cloud module to our customers a couple months ago, hundreds bought immediately. They recognized very quickly that they needed to add cloud assessments to their service repertoire, right? To be able to add this as part of their prospecting. It's helping them close deals faster, identifying and highlighting risks in the cloud as well as their on-prem environments, so that they could sell against the issues, right? So if there are problems on a network, the implication is, why are there problems there if they've got an IT, somebody, an IT company, an MSP managing it, and here you can come in and identify potential issues. It makes you look really good. And really, nobody was doing this today. It is very difficult to gather the information and then analyze all of this and put it together in reports that are customer facing and provide your technicians what they need to know and manage and document the environment. They're also running monthly, and adding this or creating sort of a Microsoft cloud management and adding it to their security service. A lot of them are just adding $1 or $2 per user to their MRR, run reports monthly or quarterly, and deliver the results, right? A lot of those charts and graphs show how well you're doing managing that environment. And of course, you can remediate when you find issues. It can also help you scope and sell cloud backup, right? There's money to be made here too. There's a number of different vendors. A company called Spanning is one of the top vendors in this area, and you can make additional money selling backup for these cloud services. And of course, it makes onboarding faster and easier, right? More complete, so that you know exactly what's in the environment. And finally, project work. So it can help you identify user and group cleanup projects, site organization, and whatnot. And that's whether you're running this in a co-managed environment and selling a cloud assessment to a company that's got internal IT already, but lacks the expertise and tools to deliver these kind of services and reports, or whether it's something that you find when you're doing your prospecting and you can pitch these projects. So let me just touch very briefly on pricing and licensing. Our MSP licensing is very MSP friendly. Basically, if you're an MSP that has a single location, serve a single geography, you need one license of the module, and you can run this on every one of your customers, run it, every one of your technicians have access to it. So it's kind of an all-you-can-eat, unlimited use license. If you do business in 2 different areas, you would need a license for each area. And on a multi-year subscription, it's just $2.99 per month for all-you-can-eat use of this tool. So think of the time that you can save and the money you can make with this very affordable subscription. So kind of coming to the end here, I want to thank you for listening. I look forward to talking to you at our booth to learn more. Happy to answer more questions about the cloud module. We're doing a drawing for an Amazon e-gift card. And of course, if you're interested, sign up for a demo. We'd love to work with you more personally and answer all of your questions. So thank you all very, very much.